So for a lot of people on the recovery journey, they're looking to stop a behavior, or maybe to stop the pain that they're feeling because of their spouse's behavior. And they maybe haven't put together, why would emotions and emotional intelligence be part of that recovery journey? So that's the question. Why is emotional intelligence important on the recovery or healing journey? What significance does it have for us in that process?
I really love this question because if you know anything about people who end up in recovery, so people who struggle with maybe an addictive prone personality, a lot of times they got to where they are because they had an experience or they had emotions that kept coming up, and their method to avoid those emotions or get away from that feeling came from their acting out behavior. And in the same way, somebody who has experienced betrayal, then they're dealing with all of these emotions, maybe emotions that they've never really felt before, and an emotional overload. And so I think that when you look at those populations of people and understanding how emotional intelligence could benefit them, I think that there's a lot to explore here. And especially because if you look at the way that we almost naturally want to avoid emotions that are uncomfortable. That just seems to be something that's innate in our human experience. And yet we're all emotional and we all have opportunity to not only feel emotion, but then to express that in a way that contributes to relationship. Then I think that understanding emotional intelligence becomes really, really important. Even though it's probably going to be a slow process, no matter where you are on the continuum of just being able to, first off, raise that awareness, which often comes from being willing to sit in the discomfort of sometimes emotions that are overwhelming. And it takes a lot of practice and a lot of time, but then again, it's worth it because it not only helps us to understand ourselves and maybe where those emotions come from or why it is that I tend to run away from or avoid these emotions, but then also to just recognize that, okay, if I know this about myself, then how is that going to help me in the future when it comes to maybe challenging relationships or even just relationships in general?
An illustration I've heard before is that our emotions inform us the way that the icons on the dashboard in our car inform us that, oh, okay, there's something going on here. There's something else that's at play. And I think that I like the analogy because that tells me that there's something going on that is going to need some attention. Like someone's going to need to look at something like the check engine light. Oh my gosh, I hate that freaking light. Or the maintenance. My car, for whatever reason, has a maintenance required. You look in the manual, it doesn't tell you what maintenance required means. And so it's like, okay, do I just take my car in and just, do maintenance, But I think that's even a good word for it, is that there is some emotional maintenance that needs to take place. God, that was a great illustration. I walked right into that one. But I just think that that's really important to view it that way. And having emotional intelligence is being able to identify, okay, there's something going on that needs some effort and some work here. And a lot of that has to do with our wounds and the pains that we have and the experiences that have shaped who we are, both good and bad. Because, what I love the way you even at the beginning of your answer had that it's emotions that are uncomfortable for us, not negative emotions. There are not negative emotions. There are emotions that we can perceive as negative, but we still need to process that because they're telling us what's going on inside.
Well, and unfortunately, a lot of us treat negative emotions or emotions we perceive as negative the way we treat that check engine light in our car. We get that little piece of black tape and we put it over the light so we don't have to see it anymore.
How do you reset that light again?
Ignore that.
Yeah.
Let's avoid it until it causes in our cars a drivability problem. They're like, oh, well, the car's not working. I better get it checked out. We can dismiss the light because we don't understand it. We're tired of seeing it. And I think we treat emotions that way. At times, if we haven't understood them, it's just like, I'm going to push that down. I'm going to ignore it. And yet the truth is something's still going on. And we've used the illustration in a lot of our materials of the iceberg, that behaviors are really the above the waterline part of our life. They're what can be seen. It's what we're experiencing. But that's not the only thing going on. And when we talk about emotional intelligence, it's that invitation to go below the waterline of our life, to look at what's driving my behaviors and to see that my behaviors are a response or an outcome to things I'm feeling and experiencing in a deeper way. And as I gain an understanding of what my emotions are, where they're coming from, what's driving them, Now I'm developing an intelligence that will inform my behaviors. And so when it comes to the recovery journey, especially if someone is newer listening to this podcast and you're totally focused on changing that behavior, we get it and we want to help you change that behavior. But if you don't go below the waterline and look at what's driving it, where it's coming from, you're not going to have much success changing that behavior long term. And so that's why emotional intelligence is just absolutely critical in the recovery journey for both the struggler and the betrayed side as well.